What you looking at?
It looked like a little heart. It's not. It's a little arrow. But
I'm Glenn.
I'm Gertie.
Welcome to Masterpiece Auditorium. Welcome to Masterpiece Auditorium, where we read the finest literature this modern world has to offer and discuss its impact on today's society. This week, we're talking about Shifter Daddies, a paranormal romance collection by Meg Ripley. Prepare yourself, for tonight's piece contains the following themes:
Harmony.
agony,
Intimacy.
revenge.
Yelling.
Let's learn about the author that I got from her website, Meg Ripley, a best-selling author of steamy shifter romances. She's a Seattle native who relocated to New England. She can often be found whipping up her next tail, curled up in a coffee shop with a cappuccino and a laptop. With the exception of a few of her early novels, books in her series are standalones and can be read in any order, though you can read them from the first to last for maximum enjoyment. You can find series such as Shifter Nation Universe, Shifters of the Elements, Dragons of Charok Universe, Beverly Hills Dragons, Dragons of Sin City, Dragons of the Dark Blood Secret Society, and Pax of the Pacific Northwest. Gertie! Sweet Gertie.
Sweet Glenn.
This is an amazing book. It deals with so many different facets of human loss.
I found myself, I cried, I laughed, I got wet.
I didn't cry because I'm a man, but I did get wet. So, the basics are, this takes place in Homestead, which is near the Everglades National Park, which apparently has a lot of animals in it, including panthers, alligators, bears. What am I missing? There's one more.
The crocodiles?
Oh, crocodiles, not alligators.
Is it crocodiles?
I think it's crocodiles.
Oh, yeah, the crocs.
The crocs. And I feel like I'm missing something, but...
Yeah, you had a list somewhere.
I did. Here it is. Bears, panthers, wolves, tigers. I didn't know we had tigers.
We don't.
In America.
We don't.
So they're not native to the area. They're foreigners.
Very topical.
Well, it's a good thing we like. That's addressing current political things happening today. And crocs. The main characters are Connor Griffin and Jessie, who I don't believe has a last name. I never ran across it.
She doesn't. And this is actually a brilliant work of subversion. We learn Jessie intimately throughout this novel. We experience her inner thoughts. We see the impact she has on the people around her.
Wow.
But we never learn her last name.
That's true. And she's so important. She's a central character to the story, which is insane.
She is next to the Mother of God in this story.
She basically is.
She basically is.
She basically is. Well, she's... comes from out of town. Do you want to sort of set up the story a little bit?
Let's open on the big picture. Okay, we have Connor.
Yeah.
He's a bear shifter. Mm-hmm. Beautiful bear shifter.
The way she describes his pelt.
Oh, thick. Glossy.
Oh, look at us. How we're married.
And he is a member of this group of other shifters and they're park rangers in the Everglades.
Yes.
Meanwhile, Jessie, she's tootling her way down, right? She's moving in with her sister, who moved to the Everglades from, did they say where? I don't think so. And that's okay. We don't need to know that about her.
I think it's just a small town because she worked at a diner in the small town. So she's a teacher. She went to school to be a teacher. But then there was no work in this small town. And so she worked at a diner. But I love that her sister, Nikki,
is a nurse.
And is way more successful than her because she moved to the big city to work in a nice restaurant. So it's very parallel with much more successful. And I think better looking.
I just really love the civil servants. Right?
You're a sucker for it.
They are the salt of the earth.
You are one.
This is just this is America.
This is an encapsulated view of America.
It is.
So poignant for today's political climate. Yeah. He does. So she goes straight to the chase. Right away, it's bear stuff, bear talk. We're talking bears. Right in chapter 1. He gets a call. There's a dead body, and he's like, I don't got time to drive there. I'm going to bear up. So he gets a little backpack or something. I don't know how he carries his clothes like that. I wasn't clear on that.
This is so exciting because if you're a connoisseur of shifter novels, as I am.
Yeah, you are.
You might be familiar with the fact that shifters can shift with their clothing, but not Connor, not Connor's clan.
Oh.
And this is really exciting. Whenever you get a taste of a genre that you love and you're like, oh, is that cardamom? It's something a little extra, right?
Yeah.
He has a go bag. He is a bear hurtling through the Everglades wearing a tiny backpack filled with his undies. And I think that is delicious.
It is. Well, it's taking the genre and giving it a little bit of a twist. So previously, when you and I first met, we used to fly back and forth to see each other all the time. I think you were reading a book about a Christmas otter shifter.
Yeah.
And when you say that they changed with their clothes, do they just absorb the clothes inside their bodies?
The theory, the way that author describes that is that the clothing is akin to their fur. So that when they shift, it is basically melding with their skin and becoming their pelt.
So they could have, if you're wearing a white shirt and blue jeans and you change into a Christmas otter, the front half of you would be white fur and then the bottom half is blue fur?
No. But I love that.
Well, okay, so he's got a go bag. He shifts into bear form and races through the woods.
He's just so excited.
And details are important because you want to really flesh out this kind of universe. So she makes sure to talk about how he's got to make sure that he shifts back before people see him. He doesn't want to just go charging into a place that's got normal humans standing around. He's a bear. So he shifts back and he's naked. And his go bag was somewhere the whole time. Perhaps stuffed in a chocolate pocket. She really goes after a lot of details. And it's like some things are not appropriate. Some things are like not romantic. But you're putting that bag somewhere.
I think that's brave.
But then puts his clothes back on and goes and discovers that there's a body in the sewer water, the Everglades? Swamp.
Yeah.
Yeah, so in the swamp, he discovers it's a body, and oh, crap, it's his sister-in-law.
Yeah.
And he thought, weird, I wonder what my brother thinks about that. Turns out brother's dead, too. Under the water. They pull the bodies up.
In the same swamp?
He dived in bear form because everyone that was there were all part of the same clan, so they're all shifters already. So he was like, well, fuck that, I'm back to bear. So he presumably shoves the bag wherever and then dives into the water. And then, because you can get the scent from his bear snout under the water, and was like, oh my God, I smell my brother. So he's distraught. They have a child whose name is, it's a little, there's like some sort of name flavors happening here. A little kind of something you'd find in Utah. The girl's name is Peyton, which I'm familiar with Peyton Manning. Are you familiar with Peyton Manning?
I am familiar with Peyton Manning as I am from New Jersey, which is next to New England.
What sport does Peyton Manning
play? Of New England.
I just know the name. I don't know what sport it is.
Football.
Oh, is it football?
Yeah.
Everyone knows the name Peyton Manning. So to choose to make the daughter's name this is bold.
I don't think so. So my frame of reference is Rock of Love season 2.
Wow, okay.
And there was a contestant named Peyton. Well, there were 3, so I do have to be specific here. I do really pride myself on my journalistic endeavors.
So that is the setup. We have a murder.
That's how we are introduced to Connor.
Yeah.
A roiling character. His soul is in turmoil.
He lost, as we find out later, he's lost everyone. So, in his family, what's important here is that when it comes to storytelling, you can be like Stephen King, and you can take forever fleshing out the characters, building your way up slowly learning about the characters, and then by the time the big thing happens, I see you picking your nose, and by the time the big thing happens, then it's like you know the characters so well, and how are they going to play out in this scenario of this event. But here, you're thrown straight into the event, and you're going to learn about these characters through their crisis. And we find out that he's feeling kind of guilty because now everyone in his family is dead, but he feels like he's not a good bear. And how come I'm still alive?
We watch Connor grieve. There's something so heavy. We are experiencing it with him. We're feeling his racing heart. We're feeling his past PTSD because we find that he was in the military.
I can't believe I glossed over that. That's right. There's a huge component of the story.
Bless our troops.
Bless our troops. Which, again, plays into the current political climate.
Very salient. We meet Connor as an unhealed version of himself.
Ooh.
He is balancing all of these losses. He is feeling his grief deeply. And he is also finding himself in the role of a new parent because, tragically, his sister-in-law and his brother had a young daughter.
Tragically, they made him the beneficiary of that kid if anything ever happened to him. So now he's stuck with him, and he knows he's not a good dad because of his PTSD. And, he drinks. He drinks some of the... there's people... I'm familiar with alcoholism. And people who drink a lot, they kind of stop drinking things that are like fun, like beer. And so they go to hard liquor. And then even with the hard liquor, they go to even harder stuff because they want it like stronger, faster right away. It's not about the flavor anymore. It's
better, harder, stronger, faster, yeah.
There you go. And in his case,
definitely.
He's making this concoction that is dangerous. It is, what is it, vodka and...
a splash of orange juice.
Yeah. Are you serious? It's
Please
ridiculous.
talk to your kids.
So with his PTSD, he is not dealing with it well, and there's no one there to kind of guide him. He's got no inspiration, any kind of leading light to help him get away from deal with his PTSD in a constructive manner. So he's dealing with it with like a lot of dangerous alcohol drinks, and now he's in charge of this child, which makes quite a conundrum. And this is a situation where we're thrown in the first chapter. And we are going to learn about this character as we go along in the most uncomfortable, but it's hard to look at, but that's what the author wants us to see.
Right. It's a mirror held up to us.
Yeah.
We need to face our own inner demons. We do meet some of his community, some of Connor's community. They are other shifters of various species, mostly bear, I believe one panther. One Florida panther.
That's right. So one of them married a panther.
And, we love some interracial representation.
Well, this represents our times currently with the political climate in the best possible way. And the crazy thing is, here is a person that is a shifter who, and he addresses that just in the first chapter, that people aren't prepared for it. But the quote that I have, I think, spells out kind of how us as the readers are not prepared for the trauma that we're also going to be guided through. It's sort of like going through the seven layers of hell. When he says the world wasn't ready to believe that fairy tales are real.
Right.
It's talking about people aren't ready to learn that people shift into bears and panthers and cats, but also that they aren't ready. We, as a reader, are not ready for this story.
No, we're not.
We want to believe in fairy tales. We're not ready for it, though.
No.
And this story will give us that in the end.
It does. It gives us the pain that we're afraid of really opening our eyes to. We walk through the world with our eyes closed.
We do. But this is a story that will change you as a person, forged in blood. So they have this problem with Crocs is another shifter issue. And so, it's kind of like in our current political climate. We're dealing with a group of people that are undesirable. And so the quote here is, they blame the Crocs for the murder right off the bat, which is not a problem. It's just simple. It's like they bring crime into the area, especially Florida. It's right on the border. So how long is the quote, how long were these Crocs going to cause trouble? We'd been dealing with them for years by that point. They thought they were the superior shifter group. It didn't matter that the Everglades was home to bear, shifters, panthers, wolves, and tigers. No, only Crocs should be allowed to live there, they believed. And they constantly tried to move into positions of power to take over. The rest of us all got along and worked together. That was how we'd kept them out so long. But it was getting to the point where we might have to ban Crocs from the glades once and for all, which is something that really reflects on what's happening right now in the current political climate.
We get a glimpse into the funeral of Connor's brother and sister-in-law. And we meet Jesse there for the first time in the context of Connor. And we have to remember that that is the most important part. It really doesn't matter where she came from or what her goals are. It is this moment where they have a very strained interaction at the funeral where he verbally abuses her and she accepts.
Yeah.
This is what makes this story. We are learning here that Jessie is the mother.
Good point.
Yeah.
Do you mind if I interject for a second? I believe it was in this scene after he's talked to the lawyer about being Peyton's legal guardian that he says, and I quote, about Jessie, "I didn't recognize her, but her curves caught my eye, making my inner bear groan."
Oh.
Which is really interesting because even as he has no respect for her, he's a human being and a bear that feels something in his groin for her.
Right.
So he's got a conflict.
Yes.
He's human.
Oh, it's very conflicted because he sees that she has shapes and he likes it, but he's so full of grief and rage and agony that it comes out in such a way that maybe a lesser woman would feel offended and decide, I don't want to be the nanny to your niece Peyton. But Jessie, being a high-quality woman, right, the ultimate woman, is ready to just shut her mouth. And she says, I understand that you're in pain, and I will be there for you. You've given me your address. You don't know my last name. I will be there. And that's what Connor needs. Bless Jessie. In this political climate, we gloss over a moment where Jessie speaks to her sister, Nikki, and she says, oh, Connor's such a jerk. And bless Nikki, this wonderful woman, right? We have to remember these are women, right? In Jessie's life, these two women sitting on a couch, they've got ice cream, as they do, and they're talking about this man, right, and his problems. And Nikki says, Jessie, forget about your feelings. Think about this man's problems. And she goes, oh my God, Nikki, you're so right. I need to be here for this man. Poignant.
I need to be here for this man, but also they are human beings as well. So you have the intellectual reasoning that happens for them when they are making decisions about dealing with this problematic person.
Of a woman.
But I will quote, this is from chapter 5. He's nice to look at is all I'm saying. This is Nikki saying this. I wouldn't mind having a live-in boss who looks that hot. So they have passions and feelings. They're people. They have wants and needs, but they're dealing with that also with the tumult of their psychological or the reasoning of, do I get involved in this person who's so problematic? Also,
right. Well,
he's a hot boss.
They understand the baser pleasures.
They do,
right? Immanuel Kant would have said, right, you have to understand the baser pleasures.
Continue.
And that is really the understanding of a woman, right? We say, oh, nice to look at. Oh, nice to look at. PTSD, what is that? Maybe suck his dick to make it better, right?
It's a thing that we've all thought about.
Well, it's a thing that I think women should think more about.
They might not. I know men do. I've definitely been at the grocery store and I see a homely woman, and I think to myself, could just pity bang her, make her day, make her feel good about herself, build up confidence, which is what they're thinking about with his PTSD. Make it go away. That's
why I love you. You're a good person.
Well, thank you.
So she decides to go. She says, I'm going to show up. I'm going to show up for this man and this child. This man that I already know is mean to me. And this child I've never met. This is my responsibility now.
Mean or abrupt?
Mean.
Fair enough.
We meet Connor, and he says that he is happy now, that he lives in a place that is full of his own shit. That is a direct quote. But he has to temporarily now live in his brother's house.
That is very unfortunate.
And it's full of memories and chick decorations. And he thinks, God, what a nightmare it would be to have a wife. It would be terrible. I can't even imagine. Maybe, Glenn, you can share with the audience what it's like to have a wife. It
both giveth and taketh away. So it's a situation with a lot of weight to it. You can bring someone into my already established home because, she demands it. And so I bring her in, and then she's demanding marriage. I'm like, okay, so originally was looking for someone that lives far away from me, where I could get my dick wet without having the constant, responsibility. I was nagging. But so, no, it is a lot. And I can see why he reflects for a moment. Maybe I'm better here in my brother's house, masturbating alone without a woman to answer to. But he does see her because she shows up unannounced to his brother's home that he lives in with this child who's not getting along with. And she shows up unannounced, and it makes him kind of angry. He forgot that they had this time because, PTSD. He doesn't pay attention to the calendar or anything.
And alcoholism. He has
and alcoholism. The drink he's drinking. Jesus Christ. So, and the quote being, I tried to remember why in the world would I have told her to come over? I mean, she was a hot piece of ass, but ... Again, the internal conflict. And also, he just does not want to be tempted, much as I was.
I think that at this point, it's important to remember in works such as the television show Angel, the Buffy the Vampire Slayer spinoff.
Okay.
Angel, he is a vampire, but he has a human soul.
It's a celebrated work.
When he gives himself over to love, in an explicit example, he makes love with Buffy. He loses his soul and becomes full, terrible, psychopathic vampire.
It's kind of a fear a lot of men have.
Well, it's true because women, take your soul, so you have to be very careful not to give them your essence. And I believe that Connor understands that to be a truth, and he sees that she has shapes, and he enjoys it. He is trying to prioritize Peyton. And he says, come into my home, come into my dead brother's home, and please bathe and feed and mother this child that I cannot care for. And I respect that about him. That is a type of vulnerability that you really have to dig to see it, right? It needs to be uncovered.
I think that this work of literature does a better job than movies like True Grit, where it's the reluctant daddy figure that has to guide a child through a dangerous situation. And in this case, the dangerous situation is, one, the loss of the parents, but two, that there is a croc out there. There hasn't been enough legislation to get them out, but they're there. And so these crocs are there, and he's got to protect this child, but he's reluctant as he does it. So it becomes a hero's journey of 2. 3, a sandwiched hero's journey, where the child is the meat in the center between the two breads.
We find Jesse bonds very quickly with Peyton in a way that Connor almost envies. I appreciate that he wants to have a relationship with this piece of his brother that he has lost.
Oh, that is a very good point. Continue.
But in doing so, he makes himself feminine. He gives himself over to this feminine need to mother, and that is not his role. And I believe that that is why he drinks as much as he does. It is not his grief. It is that internal conflict. Jesse has the nerve to ask, "Are you drunk?"
Oh, you don't do that to a drunk.
You don't do that to a drunk.
You don't do that to a drunk.
He says, "What if I am? What are you going to do? Call the police? I know all the cops around these parts."
That's a good point. You're giving me the Italian hand right now. What's happening? What are you going to say?
Some people would say that this is a tactic of an abuser. But I say he is trying to reclaim his penis.
Can you stretch that out a little bit more? Let's explore that.
Let's explore. He feels...
So you feel like he's lost his bare penis?
Not necessarily his bare penis. His bare penis is maybe the only thing that he is still confident in. Right? It is the only thing in which he still has confidence.
Yeah.
When he is a bear, he feels the most powerful.
Everything's simple.
If anything, he feels like he was never meant to be a husband or a father. And the sheer fact that he's been forced into that role, right? Because he hired a nanny, but she acts as if she is his wife. She makes him meals. She worries about him.
Right off the bat, yeah.
And everyone knows that if you have any kind of empathy or if you care for a man, you are his wife. That's in this political climate, that's the law.
In this political climate, and also just in everyday life. I mean, that's the way you were with me. We first started talking, and then you're I think I don't hate him. Ooh, I'm basically his wife.
I'm his wife.
Which is the reason why you were so aggressive about getting down here. Which is understandable. It's not a judgment.
The problem is that once a man claims you, my lease was up.
Oh, so it's just
I had nowhere to go. I had to move into your basement.
And as your like Minnesota daddy, I had to provide for you. I had to
you had to take responsibility for that. But it's a different kind of responsibility, right? Because I understand the role.
That's true. That's true.
Jessie wants the role, but I don't think she at this point completely understands what that entails. But I do not worry for her because she is pure. As we find out later, she has only had a couple of boyfriends in high school.
Yeah.
She's fresh. She has a lot to give, and she has a lot that she wants to give. And that is really what's ideal, right?
Well, it's ideal for him, not just in the way that all men mostly require that, but it's also ideal in the way that for someone with PTSD who, again, the drinks that he's drinking, if he's going to get emotionally involved in someone, that will literally take his soul, as you talked about earlier.
Right.
It better be someone who is as pure as possible.
Right.
Because if she's complicated, she's bad, no good.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Ugh. Yeah. Well, that's what makes this so perfect. But they do not get along right away.
No. So Jessie, when she's initially putting Peyton to bed for that first night, she says, "What do you usually do at bedtime with Uncle Connor? Do you read a story? Do you say a prayer?" And this is what makes my heart swell, is that we have the introduction now of faith. And up until now, with everything that Connor has been experiencing, this agony, multiple layers of agony, right? His war PTSD, his brother and sister-in-law dying, right? We never see him appeal to a higher power. And Jessie just so casually, isn't this a part of your nightly routine, right? Don't you say a little prayer? It's
kind of opening up a world to him that he wasn't open to before. Just because of her casualness of, well, don't you say a prayer before you go to bed at night?
Right.
Makes him stop and think, what kind of life am I living where I don't have Christ there with me when I'm running through the woods with a go bag?
A little backpack. Why is vodka my Christ?
Oh, why is vodka
I
the
think
Christ?
everyone needs to sit for a little bit and they need to think, Who is my Christ? And if it's not Christ, you need to think on that a little bit.
You're a pretty deeply religious person. If you didn't go to church as often as you do, what would be your Christ? For example, mine would be eggs.
Babe, let me take your hands.
Okay.
This is my role. This is everything I've been waiting for. By saying that you are now going to hell.
I am? Because of the egg thing.
Because of the egg thing.
Oh.
But now I get to fulfill my role of bringing you back to Christ. See, this is the dynamic that I love about Connor and Jesse. He is so intent on going to hell. And she says, no, I'm bringing you back from the brink.
It's inspiring.
I am going to make you the husband and father you never wanted to be. And he loves it.
Oh, I thought you were talking to me for a second. I'm like, I already got kids. But okay, no, I understand. No, I'm back. The story, she's going to make him the husband and father that he's not prepared to be. And he's openly rejecting. He chooses...
Openly.
The orange liquor Christ.
Connor makes it very clear that he is a black coffee drinking, no nonsense taking man.
Shifter. Yes.
Yes.
Man shifter.
Yes. And unkindly, he does make fun of her for drinking her coffee anything but black.
That was tough to read. So when I read that, I actually put the book down.
It's all forgivable. Remember. He makes it very clear that he doesn't need anyone's help, not even the other male members of his clan. I find this a lot more poignant.
Well, I think it was in Galatians 5 where they say, and he walked into the desert by himself, where he's choosing to reject all people and walk into his own desert by himself, even his own clan of bears. But he also, another aspect is, as he rejects her, but they also don't know each other very well. He finds her sexually attractive, which he battles inside his own mind. And then he's rejecting the other members of his clan. He leans more on the power of being a shifter bear, that he dives more into that. He embraces it more. So I have a quote. I changed my clothes and headed down to the basement where Logan and Elena had built a pretty sweet home gym. That's his brother and sister-in-law. Most shifters found the need to work out hard to keep the animal instincts under control, and I was no different. I had to remind myself of what my therapist said was true. Exercise helped with depression and anxiety and even kept PTSD tempered somewhat. It was like all those emotions were somehow stored in my muscles, and when I worked out, it forced them all out of me. So this is a person that does not have a Christ, does not lean on a wife, does not lean on his family or his clan, and, you can't really talk to a kid.
He is lost.
He's lost.
Yeah.
So he's leaning into his muscles. He's leaning into his shifterness. Yeah.
And he works this stressful job, right? He tells the story of a mission that he went on where he rescued a boy who got stuck in a tree. And we see this bigger picture, right? We stretch it out even further. And we see if we had to turn it upside down on its head, right?
Yeah.
We have the PTSD. We have the loss of the family. We have these stressful day-to-day missions.
And on top of it, the croc that killed his brother and sister-in-law.
Every day he thinks about that croc and he says, why was this croc even in the country? He goes home and he makes himself a drink with a lot of vodka and a splash of orange juice. But today's the day where it all changes because it's Logan's birthday, right? Connor's dead brother's birthday. And Connor is angry. He feels that Jesse isn't doing enough to acknowledge it. He thinks she didn't even check the calendar. She hasn't mentioned it.
Which isn't fair to her, and I think he knows it's not fair to her. But he also is not dealing with his feelings, reasonably. Like, he's not being honest with himself about how he's reacting.
To play devil's advocate, she could have checked the calendar and said a little more significantly, I understand it's Logan's birthday. We'd like to go to his grave. Would you like to come? And she did not take that initiative, so she deserved the way that Connor responded to her. Actions have consequences.
That's true. It was very ignorant of her.
And in this case, the consequence was that they made sweet, sweet love.
Well, she realizes that to be with him, you need to get there in the weeds with him. So he gets drunk that night, real drunk, where he can't help, because Peyton at this point is warming up to him. They've had a rough time trying to connect. And so Peyton now is wanting him to be in the room as she prays and goes to bed. But he's too drunk because he can't handle the feelings that he has about his brother's death and this being the birthday. So she babies him through it. She takes care of him with his drinking. Peyton drew a picture for her dad to take it to the grave, and that she drew a picture, or that she wanted to draw a picture and leave it at the grave, but he was too drunk and they couldn't go. So that was part of the reason why he got so upset.
But it was their fault, because if they had made it clear to begin with, maybe he wouldn't have gotten so drunk on a screwdriver.
Which is a great point. But then, sort of life being guided for the two of them to learn more about each other. Like, this is a bad experience. Child wanted to drop this picture off at the dad's grave. He's too drunk. They're not going to do it. And then he feels worse. He gets more drunk, whatever. And so then he opens up to her about his feelings a little bit through the power of drinking. And then he was able to talk to her, and she was able to be there for him. And then they wound up having this tender moment. They wind up kissing because of it. So they're expressing their mutual respect through physical action. And then she says, I'm not as sweet and as innocent as you think I am, which is kind of masterful, because you're not coddling him so much. You're showing him, here's a moment of intimacy. I know what men like. You want a saint for a wife and the whore in the bed. So she's giving him a little bit of that whore, just a little dip of that whore. Just putting your toe in the water before getting fully wet. And so then They kiss a little bit, then she pulls away. And then he says, it's getting late. You've been here a long time. Why don't you stay the night? So then he makes up his room for her, which, of course, is messy. It's, what is he, an ex-Navy SEAL or something? He's a messy man. And then he makes up a bed on the couch. He goes out to the couch, and then he begins crying with the power and purity of a baby. And so then she comes out to caress his hair, soothe him. And then they kiss again, because he knows at this point with this kissing, she's not just like doing a pity thing. She runs her fingers through his hair. So now we're getting physical acts of passion beyond just, I'm trying to get you to stop crying. So when he's done, he kisses her again, then she runs her fingers through the hair. And then I have a note that says, the quote, "That time she didn't pull back. She let me kiss her, and she returned the gesture just as strongly. Her fingers wound through my hair. I grew hard at her touch, and my bear begged to be closer to her. So I picked her up and carried her to my bedroom." So the bear is very interesting because, like you were saying earlier, what is your Christ? Mine is eggs. You, in his case, it's alcohol. Some of the harshest drinks. And then on top of it, his bear. He leans into the bear as his crutch, emotionally and spiritually. So even in this moment of tenderness and direct contact with another human being, he understands he's probably going to lose his soul, much like the show Angel. He's going to understand that, but he's prepared for it, and he thinks of the bear. Everything's the bear. A moment of sensitivity, of emotional vulnerability.
Right. Well, he's able to separate himself, right?
When he becomes,
because it is not himself, it is the bear. He can push those feelings onto the bear. It is only later that he realized that they are one and the same.
That is masterful. That is a great interpretation of that passage.
Well, it's a beautiful writing.
No, it makes the most sense. It's the reflection on how someone deals with intimacy is beautiful in that case.
Well, it is up until in the next moment when they awaken after their night of passion. He cannot control his emotions. He is utterly overwhelmed by the sheer fact that she might just want to be his mother. And he doesn't feel like he is deserving of that.
Well, he's had a night. That is a great point. I'm not dismissing that, but I just want to add to that. He had an evening with her where he was open and vulnerable emotionally. And then he's having physical relations with this woman who has parts of her body that are confusingly wet. And then she's, probably demanding touch it, and he's scared.
Her nub. Yeah,
her little tiny peg. He has probably spent most of the night confused and just on some level taking her guidance sexually to understand what to do with her body to please her. He's probably doesn't know when to put a condom on or not wear one. Like, he doesn't understand the process. And then on top of it, the next day, he's got all of this weight from that experience and everything afterwards.
You have to understand that at its very base, a man having sex with a woman is gay. She makes it known early on that other men have lain here before, and he is coming after, and he is in search of some kind of victory, right? He wants her to feel differently.
That's a great point.
He wants her to reach some kind of climax. And in doing so, he is interacting with the men who have come before.
The ghosts of other men.
Exactly. It's a gay experience, and I understand then his conflict.
I have a quote from chapter 12. I kissed along her neck, inhaling her scent, moving my hands slowly under her shirt. She removed her bra, and her breasts were firm. Softest silk.
Oh.
I caressed them, feeling her weight in my hands as I rubbed my thumbs over her nipples, and she let out the softest moan. That moan sent tingles through my entire body. So she is actually able to, in a sense, control him at this point. So she's taking him on a journey of sorts.
She's stealing his soul.
That's true. Yeah, he won't have a soul at the end. So God, she was perfect. So he's getting absorbed. He's not thinking about the men anymore. Now he's just thinking about her. He's absorbed. Right. Gorgeous body with curves in all the right places. I let my hands explore under her shirt a little more as she responded to my touch, nibbling on my ear and running her hands along my spine. I kissed along her thigh, then I let my tongue flick over her sensitive knob. We talked about that earlier. And between her folds.
It doesn't mention which folds or where. It doesn't mention which curves or where.
No, it's very open to interpretation. Also, the entire experience, I could replace what I think she looks like with your face.
Oh, me too.
I didn't, though.
When I read Jesse, I see you.
So if I can just return back to the act for a moment, this kind of spells out what I was talking about his fear. Like, her body is mysterious and strange, and he's he's reverting to thinking about the bear all the time during the act of coitus. So, quote, letting out a more fervent cry, louder than any of the others, I felt her tightening around my finger as she came, her juice flowing over my hand as she dug her fingers in my hair, which is frightening if you think about it. Like, this is a person who is not familiar with women, at least in human form. Then, Connor, she whispers, I want you. Are you sure? Yes, please, make love to me. I closed my eyes and swallowed. There was no way I could say no to that. I moved back into place on top of her and pushed her legs apart, rubbing her slickness into my throbbing member. I pressed my head at her opening and moved inside her gently. Pushing back against me, she gasped as I filled her to the hilt. Oh, God, Connor. So, even in this experience, which is terrifying, she's pouring water all over him from all different directions.
It's sloppy.
He doesn't know where it's coming from. Like, it could be like the back pocket or anything. He doesn't know where this is coming from. But he's doing it. She's guiding him through it. He is taking himself to a bare place. And then on top of it, he's still able to perform, which I will say I don't know if I could have, to be honest.
So they wake up, and she is refreshed. She feels like she has won.
Well, she's basically a vessel for her religious Christ. So she is pure.
She is pure, and she has absorbed him. She feels like she has scrubbed him clean, right, with her pussy repeatedly with penetration. But as she wakens and she dresses in something from the closet, not even thinking about it.
Yeah.
Just ready to take care of that kid, right? Because she is the mother.
She's focused, but it was unfortunate.
She's focused.
It was unfortunate.
Because he awakens and all he knows is that he has lost his penis by being vulnerable.
Yeah, he has. He really has. You're right.
He sees her victorious in
Over
his
him.
brother's shirt.
Yeah.
And he says, no, I will reclaim my penis. Give me my key. And she hands over the key that's on a Disney keychain, right? This is another representation of purity, right? And he says...
Sure, the Disney princess. Yeah, absolutely.
Right? He says, this was a mistake. You've stolen my penis. He said that. That's a direct quote.
Oh, that's a quote.
That
is so telling.
It's so telling.
That's amazing.
No, this author really, she really captures the male psyche.
It's amazing because she is so effortlessly showing the human daily struggle in a way where, like, I don't know, with the thoughts going through this author's head, like understanding the balance and the constant to and fro and push and pull of, like, what it is to be a human in this world. How does she get groceries? How does she buy Triscuits?
We never learn. How brilliant is that she leaves space, right? She holds space for these unsaid things. And I just feel like that is brilliant. So Jessie, by she I mean Jessie, she is humiliated, right? She is sent away from this home now.
Well, he makes her into his whore, basically.
Right.
Which is biblical as well. And so again,
whore.
and she's also in her, so we're talking about him and what he's dealing with. She doesn't speak, she speaks directly about his conflicts, but she doesn't speak directly about hers. We know that she's religious. We know that she's sexual, but we get hints about now she is the whore of Babylon. Like, she is being cast out.
Yes.
And so we're getting hints about her that you really have to look hard to find. It's not easy to get this information about that character.
Right. But it is there.
Oh, it's there.
If your eyes are open, it's there.
You got to keep it, yeah, for sure. You need to keep your eyes open for sure.
So she goes home to where she's living with her sister, and she puts it all out there, and her sister says, let's have some ice cream, as women do. And they talk about it. And luckily enough, it's all going to be okay, right? She's going to apply for other jobs. She's going to be financially supported in some kind of different venue.
It's almost like the ice cream is some kind of act, some kind of some sort of religious rite. It's some sort of making a pentagram and standing in the center
balm.
of it. Yeah, it's you do this and you
soul.
put this out into the universe,
right.
And then it's causing a calming thing. Well, what's interesting about this though is that he is so deluded, he's so lost inside himself, leans so heavily on the bear. But the bear is not there to help him in times of human need that he wants.
Right.
So he winds up blaming her for not fighting hard enough to stay with him. Because as he yells at her, get out of my house, give me my key back, he's rude to her, he's mean, he's cold. They had just made coitus. And then he winds up casting her out, like the whore, biblical whore. He casts her out, but then he blames her, which is a complicated view. You don't see that very often in novellas. A quote is, Jessie had left just like that. She walked out. Of course I yelled at her first. I had to. Burp. It was the only way to make her leave. I wanted her to go, but I wanted her to refuse. Some desperate, twisted part of me wanted her to fall at my feet and beg her to let me love her. To let her stay, I wanted to hear her say that she would refuse to leave because she refused to give up on me. But she left. After such a harsh few words, she left, taking every remaining piece of my heart with her. So when you look at that from that lens, that bottom of that smoky beer glass that you have just finished and licked, then you realize, from his point of view, she did mess up. She is actually the villain because she should supplicate. Am I using the right word? Am I using the correct word? Supplicate herself to him?
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you. I'm sure I'm saying it right. She should grovel for him, as angry as he is, as drunk as he is from those orange drinks.
The screwdrivers.
He is, from all of that, how messy he is, how, he is not easy to be with. He doesn't provide for her, really. He just takes and yells. Why isn't she giving more of herself to him? Which is interesting.
It is. That's her cue to give more. That is her cue to understand and reflect. I think that through this lens, right, we see a man in pain, right? And it is not necessarily important how he expresses that pain. That is not the point.
No.
The point is that in the moment of his vulnerability, she thought about herself.
Which is pretty selfish.
And that is the one fault.
Yeah.
This is where we learn that Jessie is not the divine mother, right? She is in fact human.
What is the quote I said earlier? I'm not the good girl that you think I am.
Right.
She's complicated.
Right. She's a little complicated and selfish. And it's okay because she's accepted Jesus as her Lord and Savior, right? She's atoning.
Sure.
But she doesn't quite understand what that impact has on other people.
No.
And in the moment that she is needed the most, she leaves. She goes back to her sister. She learns that she received a call and she wants to be, she has an interview now with
New
a different
job,
teaching job, right?
Her chance to leave,
right?
To abandon him.
To abandon. And she says, great timing. So in this moment, she is really just thinking about herself.
She's being tested. She's being tested by God.
She is.
Yeah.
She is. And she kind of rejects motherhood in that moment.
She chooses that.
She chooses to reject motherhood.
Which is a selfish choice, yeah. No,
selfish.
For sure.
So selfish.
Very selfish. For almost no reason.
For no reason. No. Sure, he was cruel. Yeah, he was intimate with her. He made her he enjoyed her at her most vulnerable.
Yeah.
And then immediately removed her from his home and away from this child that she had built this relationship with. But that does not excuse her from abandoning this role as mother.
No, not at all.
Right. Cruel.
Also, wasn't there a chapter where he says, she reminds me of my mother?
Yes,
yeah,
yes.
Which
Several times he says that leading up to this, he sees
Does he
her.
say that to her or just
No.
in the narration? Yeah, it's unfortunate he never said that because she knew that she wouldn't possibly be so selfish. She'd understand her role.
You're giving her a lot of credit.
Oh, you think so? Yeah, you're probably right. I probably am.
I think you're apologizing for Jessie. I think you're a little too empathetic.
Sure, that makes sense. No, that's a good point. I'm like that. I don't know what
because you're. We see Connor now rebounding from this intense emotional entanglement, right?
Yeah,
where he is trying to push away all those that love him, including his own clan. And he is resenting the fact that he showed emotion in front of Jessie.
Sure.
He feels like this was inherently him giving away his penis. Not that it was stolen.
Sure.
He gave it to her.
He doesn't like being manipulated into giving away his penis, is what I feel like was happening in that previous chapter.
Right. He says that she knows more about him than his therapist or his own mother.
That's a big claim.
I think that's
very
significant.
Bold. Very bold.
bold. And also it reminds us of how truly vulnerable Connor has been. So we have to take that into account when we think about maybe things that he said that's hurtful. We have to also think, but he is more vulnerable than he's ever been, even with his own mother, the woman who birthed him, carried and birthed him, right? So forgiven. All is forgiven. He falls for her, and she walks out with his cruel words. But it doesn't matter that it was cruel. She walks out.
Which is, partially her fault. She should,
it is
We've
very
talked
much
about
her
it.
fault.
Yes, exactly.
Right. So we covered that. And he makes it very obvious within his psyche that she cannot fix him and no one can.
It's the curse. It's his curse.
It is his curse to bear.
And he knows that about himself.
Right. So he is communicating now telepathically with his clan because, remember, he's a bear.
And we didn't actually talk about this earlier. They have a walkie-talkie system within their minds where they are able to communicate telepathically with each other like a party chat call kind of thing. Like they can all talk to each other. Yeah, and he can cut them out only by running faster through the woods. Can he cut them out? So in this case,
they all hear that he's in pain, and they all say, "I'm here for you.
Yeah.
I'm ready to be there for you, brother."
Yeah.
Which is inherently homosexual.
It's sexual for sure.
And so he runs faster because he says, "I'm not going to sin in that way."
Yeah.
Right?
Which is tough because he's already got a bag behind him. Stuffed up behind him.
In his... Yeah.
He's thinking about that as he's running, and these men are just talking
he feels his little
and,
backpack jostling within his brown hole.
Exactly.
And then these men who transition from bear to man, and they are naked because we've already established they don't transition with their clothes, right?
Yeah.
So they're trying to hug him, and he says no.
They meet him in the woods.
They're oiled.
They confront him.
He wrestles out of the grasp of a buff man, buff naked
big,
man,
muscular guys.
They're wrestling,
and
he's
sweaty,
struggling,
and so sweaty.
They're sweating.
And he's already learned from previous experience that moisture is key to sexuality with a woman. So here's the guy just covered in moisture,
wet,
wrestling him in the woods, a private area.
And he says, "I don't want to share anything with you."
Yeah, he's fighting. He's put in a position to try and embrace feelings about an attraction to another naked man who's hugging and touching and slapping with his big, beautiful arms and thighs and legs just all over him. And he's fighting it. I don't want to share anything with you, both sexually and also mentally.
Yeah.
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 It's tough. It was tough to read.
It was hard to read because you know that Connor's being taken advantage of. These members of his clan are acting as if they're trying to have his best, they're having the best intentions for him.
It starts out that way.
That's how it starts, but then they drug him. They give him a concoction of herbs to calm him down.
That tea that they made him drink.
They're touching him. They're naked.
Yeah.
And this is another...
Oof. I have to take a break pretty soon.
It's hard to read.
It is hard to read.
It is.
It is hard to read.
To just see him be exploited in this way, where he is at his most vulnerable, and the people who should be caring for him just want to tell him that everything's fine. They're gaslighting him.
Yeah, they are.
He knows it's not fine.
Well, they see an opportunity.
They see potentially that they could maybe swoop in and touch him naked, all greased. Wet bears rolling around in a meadow, a dewy meadow. And that's not what he's looking for. He wants Jessie to be the mother to his niece that he didn't want to be a parent to.
Yeah. You know, if you think about it, he's dealing with war trauma. And then he deals with that from his liquor Christ. And then his bear Jesus. But the bear Jesus is complicated. And also the liquor Christ is too, because liquor Christ just has hangovers. You miss out on the kid being able to take a picture to a grave and stuff. There's things that it's a problem.
Yeah.
But then there's the bear Jesus. With that, it involves sexual assault.
Yeah.
That's part of the problem. He's probably grown up with this on a regular basis.
Right.
Oh,
right.
what are you mad because you got a bad grade in school? Let's chase you down through the woods.
Yeah.
Get naked. Wrestle a little bit. You know, it's a problem. It's a problem. Everything about his life is so unstable.
It is, and it's heartbreaking to watch him experience it because you can't change the past, right?
No, you can't. I know. I know.
Oh, I know.
Yeah, no,
oh,
you know. Any of us.
Oh, I know. So next we follow Jessie. She gets the job after this interview, right? That comes at just the right moments.
It's not the dream job she thought it was, though, was it?
It was not. It was not. And it was just about 3 weeks. So it's been 3 weeks since she broke up, since Connor kicked her out, let's say. Right. And she is so excited. She wants to work this job. And this grizzled teacher, right?
Yeah.
She says, we learned her last name. It's Miller. She says,
"Oh, that's what you learned." Oh, really?
Yeah.
Whoa! We got that far in the book. That is
Chapter 15.
That is a challenge by the author.
Page 69. It really is. Actually, I'm surprised that she would give this to us.
Yeah.
Because at this point, it doesn't really add to anything.
I don't need it now.
We already know Jessie.
I don't know Jessie's.
We
I don't
know
need to know
that
at
she
this point.
is part whore of Babylon and she is part virgin mother.
Like, we've moved past that.
So this is actually really interesting if you look at it. So she's giving her full name, her full self, right, to this new job that does not appreciate her, that doesn't even think she'll last.
Yeah.
It, out of the gate, does not have faith in her. Versus when she became a nanny for Connor, he didn't ask her name at all. He didn't ask her first name even before giving her his address and saying, be at my house this date, this time.
That's a really good point because he was accepting her before she even had to. Thank you. Exactly. Also, this grizzled teacher is called Miss Marcy. She says that's what the kids call her. So we don't even know if this grizzled teacher's real name is Miss Marcy. Like, is Miss Marcy or Marcy's her first name, last name? We don't. Yeah. Thank you. Exactly. I was thinking the exact same thing when I read that. I dropped my Kindle on the floor, which is a very, very expensive object.
And you only have one of them.
I've only got one. I don't have multiple, and I don't regret that now in our current political climate. I wound up dropping it because I was thinking she has been cast out, and now there's Lucifer, Miss Marcy, as the kids call her. You know what I'm saying? And so then she is like there with Lucifer tempting her. I've got a room full of special needs kids, and you are not going to like it, and this is your goddamn life now. Yeah. There's one kid, Aiden, who slaps her real hard on the hand and runs around the room like a little spaz. What do you do with that? You can't teach that. If anything, you should go to some kind of camp or something.
Well, in this political climate.
Oh, for sure. And you got girls pulling out their own hair. You've got boys kicking other people's legs under the table. Like, she cannot get any kind of purchase.
She can't gain purchase.
She can't gain purchase on this. So then she, at the end of it, cries in her car. And then she goes to the grocery store. And who does she see at the grocery store? Connor. She was thinking about it. I wish I was back with Connor. But, you know, because she knows she fucked up. She should have begged more to stay, but she didn't. And so now she's wishing that she was with Connor. But she goes to the grocery store. She sees him in the grocery store.
As women do.
Which is part of, it's how they put that message out to the universe. But the universe isn't listening because now she's been cast out to the desert.
The universe doesn't exist. It's just Christ.
So, like in Galatians 5, so she's in the desert and thinking about something besides Satan, which is Miss Marcy. Like, I wish I could go back to that. I didn't work hard enough to stay there. I didn't grovel enough. I literally caused my own problems. So she finally is thinking about her personal kind of Christ, which is Connor. And lo and behold, he's there in the grocery store. And then when she sits in the car because she tried to avoid him, he shows up and knocks on the window and apologizes. Then he wants to take her on a date and to apologize more.
As we learned from The Great Gatsby, though, you can't go back. Although they do. Actually, nothing counted. And they go right back to where they were, and everything's fine.
She is so lucky.
She is really lucky that he gave her that grace. Right. Of wearing that shirt that was Logan's.
Yeah, which is... If
Right.
she just was...
Right.
If she would just think, you know? Mm-hmm. But in either case...
Yeah, but she gets a second chance, and Connor invites her to this date, and they go to this restaurant, and he explains to her his bareness.
So they go back to his house after they're at this restaurant, and he slips up and says clan, and he apologizes and whatever. And then they go back to his house to start making out. But again, he pulls away saying this is wrong. And he starts to tell her that he's a shifter. My quote being, she closed her eyes. Just don't tell me that you're some kind of sparkly vampire. Which I was really impressed with. Because she's giving homage to a genre of books.
She's holding space.
She's calling out Stephanie Meyer as some sort of, my inspiration in this story. So
She is a godly woman.
yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, Mormons are the most religiously perfect out of any religion. Yeah, there's nothing there to get upset about or be complicated by. It's completely a great religion. But so he shifts in front of her by getting her consent.
Right.
Shifts in front of her.
He obtains her consent.
Yeah.
Which is, again, he is handing her his penis.
I did not think about that.
He
That's a great
repeatedly
point.
emasculates himself.
Over and over and over again. So she freaks out, goes back home, says she has her own secret that she wants to tell him. So we're getting to the meat of this. Mind you, at this point, the croc hasn't been caught yet. But have you noticed that we don't care about the murders at this point?
That's the thing. She has lured his attention away. She has seduced him away from this original plot for vengeance, where he wanted to go and physically murder every croc that existed. And instead now he is negotiating nannying hours, where Jesse says, anytime I'm not working, I can come over.
Yeah.
She has zero boundaries, zero self-respect. He is handing her his penis in a box lined with velvet. He says, thank you, mother. Thank you.
No, that's a great point. Especially the thanking his mother is powerful. So she goes back home, and it turns out her sister already knew about the secret, so we don't know what the secret is, but we find out very shortly. We don't have to learn about the secret chapters later. We learn about it now. She's pregnant with the shifter, possibly a shifter baby.
Potentially.
Yeah, so now that she knows he's a shifter, she's like, what the fuck is inside my body? So this is terrifying for her.
Right, so she's having this date, right, and they both have secrets, and they come to the dinner table. And he says, I'm a shifter.
Yeah. And shows her.
Yeah. And she panics because she's human, a human woman.
I can't imagine if you shifted
fallible.
in front of me, and then the top half of your fur was your black shirt, and the bottom half of your fur was your blue jeans, blue. Terrifying. Terrifying.
Yeah. And no titties.
I guess if you're a bear, you don't have big titties, huh?
No,
that's got to be tough.
You just have a bunch of nipples.
Kind of emasculated as far as women's go.
Well, this whole book is emasculating, and that's really, I think, what's most important to remember, is that in this moment, he shifts, she panics, she runs, even though she still has this deep, dark secret that she's been hiding.
Yeah.
That she is potentially 3 or 4 weeks pregnant.
Yeah.
Where the production of conception is several cells. It is...
Expand on that.
It looks like a soap sud. It's a bunch of cells, and it looks like absolutely nothing. it's almost not possible for her to even know she's pregnant. But she is carrying the weight because she is the mother. So she is morally correct in having this intense need to tell him that she is carrying this child. And she is already so connected to it that even when she finds out that it might be a creature, that she can't even consider not having it. And in this political climate, I just think it's really important to have all of us remember to be more like Jesse. Blessed is the fruits.
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yep.
Yeah.
Connor is understandably upset. So he starts running towards bear jail. Apparently they have their own jailing system for bears, and he runs towards it in bear form. But then he meets Ezra in the woods, and they start wrestling again. Like every time he has a vulnerable moment, these men with no clothes on and their sweaty torsos and pecs and glutes are just all over him.
Sliding over each other.
Like dolphins.
Trying to overtake each other.
Your fur, your pelt is wet. It's wet from sweat, and they're just wrestling and talking to each other mentally. They're inside each other's minds. Like it's so intimate. Symbolic of like a sexual, intimate kind of experience. So he goes to see her at her house instead of going to bear jail, and then he says, "What's your secret?" She's like, "I'm pregnant," which he says, "Quote." I'm sorry, Jesse. I didn't plan this. I didn't plan to have my brother and his wife die. I didn't plan to become a single father. You came to me, remember? Question mark. You said you'd be Peyton's nanny. I needed someone, and your sister was friends with Elena, and so it made sense. But I didn't think ... Next quote. Jesse Miller, I need you. Oh, Miller, there we go. We got the name again. Like now that we're getting towards the end, we're getting the full Jesse. We're seeing
her.
Yeah, we finally see her. The spotlight is on her. I need you more than I've ever needed anyone in my life. I love you. I want to be with you forever. I want us to share a family and a life together. I want to raise a baby with you and then be the man I know I should be. The man I can be with you by my side. I promise I will love you and sacrifice everything for our family. I will do whatever it takes. I'll clean up and get more help. I'll learn how to be a father. I'll do better. I'll be better. I'll be whatever you need. Please stay with me, love me, marry me, be mine forever. Now that is him taking his phallus, removing it from his torso, his hip area, putting it into a velvet-lined box. The velvet,
a heart-shaped box.
And the shape of the box being symbolic of the beautiful words he used there. And handing it to her. Please, take this phallus. Take this phallus. I'm tired of giving it to other men in bear shapes. I want a woman.
I want a heterosexual relationship.
He just wants a heterosexual relationship for the first time in his goddamn life. So,
and I think that's godly and admirable.
So by chapter 19, they are engaged. So she reflects upon it, about the power of marriage. And then he drops the bombshell on her that there's killer crocodiles. And she says she's okay with it because she trusts him as a protector. With all of his flaws, she trusts him. They have sex. And at one point during the sexual act, he asks her to touch herself. And she refers to it as her pleasure pearl. I think would be the clitoris.
The root of sin.
Oh, the bundle of nerves.
The bundle of nerves.
Yeah. So, chapter 20, they drive with Peyton to go meet the rest of the clan. She, at this point, finally quit her bad job.
Right, and she has given herself over to being mother.
That's true.
She has finally accepted that this is her role. She is to be mother to Peyton and Connor and Lake.
They have a gender reveal party for this baby of hers.
She makes cupcakes.
She makes cupcakes,
right, even though she was told explicitly not to bring anything, but she makes cupcakes with the with a frosting on the inside of the cupcakes. And
so he quits drinking. She reflects on that in this chapter, and how he was more than a little bit grumpy. So he tells her, yes, We have a child that could be a shifter baby. It's not all the time that they're a shifter baby. There's no rules about when a baby starts shifting. That can be puberty, or it can be 2 years old, or it can be the minute they come out of the puss place. One baby was born with a heart condition, and apparently it caused so much stress that they shifted at a really young age, which somehow fixed the child's heart.
One day after birth.
Through the power of shifting, which I can understand if you live in this world where I have a heart condition, I shift into like a little ferret, and then my heart is fixed from the power of shifting. That is something worth scientific study, which leads us into
Gertie's Medical Corner. Boo, 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 boo.
Boo, 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 boo.
Okay, welcome to Gertie's Medical Corner. So here we learn that a newborn shifter, in order to correct a congenital abnormality, shifts to conserve that energy and focus it towards correcting the problem present at birth. And I think this is a fascinating concept. This actually comes up repeatedly through other shifter novels that I've read. And you'll find commonly through novels of this nature that it is easier to heal when in the shifted state.
Which is interesting. It's too bad that this doesn't exist in real life, where we could utilize that to fix cancers, to fix pancreatic cancers, to fix colon cancers, all of the diseases, heart-based ones like lung cancer, bone cancer.
Why are you just listing all the cancers?
Should we go back to the rest of the show?
Yes.
Okay. So they find out, after the shifter baby knowledge that we learned, they find out that the croc that did the murder, that they suspected did the murder, got killed in jail by a wolf.
The full-on murder.
Yeah. And so the brother and sister-in-law apparently discovered this croc with a truckload of poison to go and poison the water. Because the crocs, we got to get them out.
Well, the crocs are bad.
Yeah, get them out of this country.
Yeah, they're sending their worst.
Yeah.
So the crocs are doing the poisoning and the murder, and Logan and Elena were in the wrong place at the wrong time, and so were murdered. And so the croc went to prison and was murdered by a wolf for something unrelated.
Yeah, it's honor killing.
Sure.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter. What matters is that Connor never dirtied his hands. He is now clean.
Well, that's the thing.
He never takes vengeance.
And he didn't need it. Thanks to the healing he's been through, he doesn't need vengeance on this croc. That was so important to him in Chapter 1.
Right.
And he was right the whole time.
Yeah.
It was a croc the entire time.
Oh.
He was right.
It was.
Yeah.
And in this political climate,
it can be that simple.
I feel like it's
a
really
1 for 1
to remember.
A crime happened. It might have been a
crime
croc.
happened, and it was probably someone outside of your clan.
No, for sure. So
whatever. So we go to the next scene where they've already birthed this baby, and it's putting a fork in an outlet immediately.
Yeah, but also the baby's name is Logan because she wanted to name Logan, not him. So then that way she's
his dead
honoring
brother.
Yeah, she's honoring the dead brother whose shirt she wore, which I still have a hard time.
It's disgusting.
Time. It was really bad.
Yeah.
So he electrocutes himself by sticking a fork in the socket, which here is a little bit of magical realism where if anyone sticks a fork in a light socket and electricity comes out and you get electrocuted, you're kind of messed up. You're kind of dead because you can't pull your arm out I've been electrocuted once, so I learned once you get electrocuted, you can't remove your hand from the thing that's electrocuting you. You're just stuck there. You're frozen in place. But this kid zaps, flies off, and causes them to shift. So again, shifting saves their life because they would have been dead probably otherwise.
Well, no, that's the fun thing about it is he sticks the fork in the light socket.
Yeah.
And then when he's electrocuted and Jesse takes the fork away, he starts throwing a tantrum, screaming, "Fork, fork."
Yeah.
So it's not the electrocution that gets him, it's his tantrum over having the fork taken away, where he starts to tantrum hard enough to shift for the first time.
It's a negative connotation for shifting, which I think this kid might struggle with.
I think
You have to get fussed before you shift.
if you have to get fussed before you shift, then shifting is inherently the devil's work.
That is oh my God, that is a great point. I think you just wrapped this whole book up with a big bow on top.
With a big bow.
So they shouldn't be proud of shifting. It's a
No, but they are.
error. Yeah, they are because they're still so ignorant of their own
But in this
sin.
political climate,
Yeah.
I think maybe they should learn quickly.
Well, hopefully, because otherwise they're going to get shipped out. So we learned that Jesse's pregnant again, and they're going to name this girl Elena, the sister-in-law.
The sister-in-law. So they are replacing these two sinners who died at the hands of another sinner.
Yeah.
Which is Christ-like, but Christ has no place in this story.
Oh, interesting.
Interesting.
Go on.
These are two flawed, un-Christ-like people, abominations even.
Oh. You've really cast a new shadow over this book.
No, I haven't. You know who has? The author.
The author. You're
Brilliant.
right. Why am I giving you credit for the author?
Brilliant.
Yeah.
Please don't. I'm just a woman.
So it ends in a kind of banal sort of way, which is, again, the human condition. Like, you could have something amazing happen to you. I can have something amazing happen to me. But in the end, I'm still cleaning out the toilet on a Sunday, which I'll be doing tomorrow. Because there's pup all over inside that bowl. Usually from my kid. Sometimes from you. The things you produce are ridiculous. But so that's kind of the way life is.
I resent that.
You're fine.
I produce formed stools.
They splash around. It gets all over the
I
place.
don't make waters.
You don't have to make waters.
Your family makes waters.
It's part of like the pre-spit of poop before the turd comes out, which just cakes the inside of the bowl.
That's not a thing. You have IBS.
You spray paint pup all over the inside of that bowl.
Not.
And same with my kid.
I make normal poops. I poop. It takes me like 15 seconds to poop.
That's not normal.
It is normal.
No, it's not normal.
It is normal.
To gather it up like that and produce it and shoot it out all in one time? Like,
Oh, yeah, a formed stool that just comes out when it's ready to.
that's not normal.
It is normal.
You're supposed to process it out for 20 minutes. Like, it's got to be loose.
You shouldn't have to
and-
struggle. It shouldn't be loose and you shouldn't have to struggle.
Okay, well, anyways, let's move on to our next segment.
Let's talk about the themes of this story. Let's review from the beginning the themes that we were ready to explore. That's harmony, agony, intimacy, revenge, and yelling.
When you line those words up like that, and perhaps, I don't know, I'm going to pick something random. Take the first letter of each word. This is kind of a fun little game I'm doing.
It's a fun little game.
Does it make
theoretical
a new
game?
Yeah, theoretically. Does it make a new word, or is it just going to be like a
I don't think so. I don't recognize it.
Okay, let me take a look. Hairy. Oh, hairy.
I don't know what that means.
It means hairy, like a lot of hair. Like on a bear or a bear cub.
Huh?
We talked about wet hair on bears earlier.
Oh.
Oh, I see. You're doing a thing right now. You're having fun? Is this fun? You having fun? Okay, so we're doing a scale now with our acronym. On the Harry scale, what do you rank this book for harmony? I'm giving it a 10. 10 out of 10.
A 10?
10 out of 10 for harmony.
Why?
He comes to peace thanks to her, but she is deeply flawed, which is the way usually Christ delivers prophets, saviors, that kind of thing, influences. And so they wound up finding peace. And the child, Clayton, Thaddeus, what's the child's name? That child.
Which one?
The girl.
Peyton.
Oh, that's, Peyton. There you go.
The older girl.
Yep.
Yeah.
So
the
with
one
Peyton,
that's not theirs.
They all finally...
That they absorb.
Yeah, they absorb.
And erase her parents.
And they live in the house of the parents, which is now their new home, which I imagine the clothes are still sitting there.
Yeah. All of their stuff.
So
the
harmony...
chick decorations.
10 out of 10 for harmony. What do you give?
Doesn't matter.
It matters. We're ranking the story. This is how we judge the story.
For harmony, I give them a 7.5.
Oh.
There's a battle for harmony, and there's a battle against harmony. It ends in harmony, so I have to rank it higher.
Sure.
But there is a struggle.
There's
harmony,
a struggle.
I would say, is the main conflict.
Okay. Agony.
10 out of 10.
10 out of 10. That was... They dealt
Lots
with a
of
lot.
pain. Lots of pain.
On the material world with murder. On the spiritual world. Yeah.
With the
his,
bear.
With his drinks.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the bear.
And the drinks. Yeah, the screwdrivers.
Okay, we didn't talk a lot about it because there's bigger themes going on, but intimacy. The sex, we didn't talk a lot about it, but the sex was hot.
Lots of mentions of the nub and folds. And those words particularly really get me going.
Yeah? Did you like that?
Yeah,
Did you take some time for yourself during that?
absolutely.
No, I didn't. Revenge.
Revenge, 0 out of 10.
0 out of 10. He
There's
didn't
no
actually go get
revenge.
revenge.
No, someone else takes revenge.
He kind of lost interest. Yeah, it was the wolf that took
Right.
revenge.
He learned who did it, and then he didn't do anything about it because his bear brothers talked him out of it.
Yeah.
They really lured him towards homosexuality
If you're
and avoiding revenge.
Yeah, if you're about to attack someone for revenge reasons and all of a sudden a bunch of gay people come out and start molesting you and tickling you and stuff, like it's going to distract you.
Right, right.
And then yelling.
10 out of 10.
10 out of 10 for yelling?
Yes.
I'm going to give it an 8 out of 10. I kind of
8
wish
out
there
of
was a little
10.
bit more yelling.
I feel like
I would like to
Connor
see
yelled
more.
at every single person,
Yeah.
every single character in this book. He yelled at all of them,
Yeah.
except maybe Jesse's sister, because we never
yeah.
saw him directly interact with her.
No, she
even
was
though
off to the side.
she knew Logan and Elena, but not him specifically,
Sure.
Connor specifically.
Yeah.
So that's the only person he did not yell at. But given the opportunity, he would have. Therefore, 10 out of 10.
Well, there's a potential for more yelling. I'm still going to give a lower number, just because I didn't actually see the yelling. I was looking for more yelling in this book, more screaming, more directives. I don't know. Okay, well, that's it for this book. I think next week we might go after Infinite Jest.
Oh,
So we'll try that.
yeah.
I think we're going to be able
Yeah.
to suss out most of the symbolism there, and I think we're going to do a pretty good job with that. But in the meantime, how do you think this book relates to the current debate over trans rights?
I feel like
Oh, hold on. My dad's calling me. Okay, well, we should probably wrap it up here. I'm going to talk to my dad for a little bit.
yeah, okay.
Okay, well, thanks for listening, and we'll see you the next time we make an episode.
Oh, I think it picked it up.
It's on
Look
the
at
thing.
that.
Oh, you can see it on the waveform. Nice.
Can we add that to
We'll
the
put it at
very,
the end.
very
Yeah,
end?
exactly. There's an outtake. Okay, we'll do it.